Welcome back to War of the Ring. We're continuing on with the very first turn, and we are into the phase of action resolutions, which means we're going to be looking at the dice here, and we're going to be doing the actions that the dice allow us to do. So I'm going to zoom down here on the dice. Now, at the beginning of every action resolution turn, the Free People's player, the blue dice player, gets to go first if they want to. And what I mean by that is if you have fewer dice than your opponent, so in this case the Free Peoples have 4 dice and the Shadow player has 6, the Free Peoples can pass their turn and make or have the Shadow player go first. And you can keep doing this as long as you have fewer dice than the other player when it's supposed to be your turn. So basically the Free Peoples could say, no, we're going to have the Shadow go first, Shadow will do something, then the Free People would have 4 dice, Shadow would have 5, the Free People would say, no, I'm going to pass again. So the Free Peoples can kind of see the strategy and what the Shadow player is doing. But I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to go down and look at the dice, we're going to choose a die and do those actions. So we are going to go first as the Free People. So I told you we're going to be doing this from the perspective of the Free People nations, elves, dwarves, humans, and hobbits. And we are going to choose the character die, it's called. And with the character die, a little bit risky here, we are going to move the fellowship. So it's called Fellowship Progress. And it's move the Fellowship Progress counter 1 step forward in the Fellowship track. Then we're going to resolve the hunt for the ring. There's 1 eye die, hunt die, in the hunt box. So I'll show you how that works. And then we would place this die into the hunt box because it has special effects if we try to move the fellowship again. So we're going to move the fellowship 1 track on the tracker. That's not going to reveal where the fellowship is though, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so way at the top of the board we have the ring symbol. That shows the progress of the fellowship. So we're going to move it to the 1 space. So what it means is the last known location of the fellowship is in Rivendell. If they become revealed, we're going to have a hunt happen right now. They would need to be 1 space away from Rivendell if they're revealed. And so they could either go to the Troll Shaws here or the Ford of Bruin as I keep knocking the miniatures over. Alright, so we're going to have a hunt for the ring now, so we're going to show you how that works. Okay, so I've set things up here. We've used our character die to move the fellowship. Hopefully, secretly, there's 1 die in the hunt for the ring box, which means the Sauron player is going to roll 1 die. You can roll up to 5. The first time on a turn, you're trying to find where the ring bearers have gone. As a Sauron player, you roll you need a 6 on the die. So let's roll, see what we get. We get a 1. So the Sauron player is unsuccessful at finding where the fellowship has moved to. So the last known location, Rivendell, they don't know where they're going. And now after you've done that, you move the die you used to move the fellowship into the hunt for the ring box. If the fellowship tries to move again, the Sauron player will once again roll 1 die to try to find him, but this time they get a +1 because the fellowship's moving for a second time, if you follow me. So anyway, that was the hunt for the ring, unsuccessful, which is good. So that was a die for the Free People's player. Next up will be a die for the Sauron player, and I'm not sure what he's going to do, so we're going to find out here in a second. Alright, so the dice that the Sauron player has to choose from, they've got 6 of them. They have 3 character. They have a muster army die and 2 army dice. They are going to play a character die, and with this character die, they're going to play 1 of their character cards. I'm just going to zoom down on the card here now, and we'll see that in action. Okay, I hope this is focusing well enough. I can't quite tell from the camera view screen, but anyway, with the character die, you can see here in the upper right corner is a sword symbol, so representing a character die. So we can play the character card here. It's the Sauron card. It says the Shelob's Lair special hunt tile is now in play. What it means is when Frodo and Sam, if they get to Mordor, we're going to add this rotten tile into the draw bag. So we add the tile to the hunt pool, and when the fellowship is in the Mordor track. So that's basically just what I said. So we're going to take that tile, which is this one, and we're going to add it into the hunt bag draw once the Fellowship is in Mordor. This is a very bad, because this means the Fellowship's going to take corruption equal to a d6 roll, and they cannot move in Mordor. They're stuck in the location they're in. There's a little 5-space track on the way to the Cracks of Doom. So that was pretty nasty. I'm going to add this into a separate area, which will then go into the draw bag if and when Frodo and Sam and the Fellowship make it to the Mordor track. And I should say, now that that card was played by the shadow player, it's out of the game permanently, gone. So it has an effect at the top and an army effect on the bottom. So the army effect on the bottom now it's gone. So that card is finished. I should say there's 24 cards for each character and strategy deck for each of the free people's player and the shadow player. All right, we're going to do another die. Now we could pass our turn to the Sauron player again, but I think we are going to play something. We're going to play the Palantir, or the event die. And with the event die, we are going to play an event card. And I'm going to bring the Gandalf the Grey guide card down as well, because there's an effect that he has when we play the card. So let's get that out and have a look at it. And once again, I hope this is focusing well enough. So we're going to play the Elven Cloaks part of this card, and we're using our Palantir event die to do it. It's in the upper left corner of all cards. There's event thing. So we're using the die to do this. It says the Elven Cloaks special hunt tile is now in play. So same as what the Sauron player just did. We're going to add the hunt. We're going to add the tile to the hunt pool when the Fellowship is in the Mordor track. So what that means, and so we're going to take this token as I grab another one, threw it across the room. And this is going to be added in once Frodo and Sam and the Fellowship make it to Mordor. Now, looking at the Gandalf ability as a guide, after you use an event action die, which we just did, to play an event card, which is this card, you may immediately draw an event card from the deck matching the type of the card you just played. So this card was a character die, or a character card. So we're going to discard this card. It's had its effect. We're going to put this in the hunt pool, and we're going to draw another character card from the stack of Fellowship cards and Free People's cards. All right, so we're drawing a new one, and let's see what we get. Oh, this is another pretty awesome card, the Phial of Galadriel. So we can add a -2, which is going to take 2 corruption off Frodo, Sam, and the Fellowship. Frodo, the Phial of Galadriel special hunt tile is now in play, and again we would add that in. So that's a pretty good one. Or we have it as a gift. Play this defending army in the same region as the Fellowship. Add 1 to plus die on all combat rolls. So this die is spent for this turn. We'll put it off to the side, and now it passes back to the shadow player. All right, so it's back to the shadow turn. Shadow are going to use this die here. Now this is either a muster or an army. They already have 2 army dice and 2 character dice remaining in their pool. They're going to use this as a muster. And when they're using as a muster, they are going to advance one of their factions on the diplomatic track. So we're going to go head over to the track. I'll show you how that works. Okay, so this is the diplomatic track, and it shows the whether they're passive or active and the different factions of Middle-earth. So we have the elves here who are active, but they're farthest away from the at-war box. We have the Sauron units, we have the Saruman units, and we have the Easterling units. They're all active, so they can be pushed down into the at-war box. You can only enter the at-war box if your faction is active. So the only active faction for the Free Peoples is the elves. We have the Men of Gondor here, we have Rohan, we have Men of the North, and the dwarves as the shield. They are all passive. So Sauron has used a muster die. He is going to advance one of his active factions down to the at war. He's going to take his own Sauron factions and put them at war. Now that has an effect for other abilities. Now you can cross borders, you can attack other units, enemy units, you can muster, gather forces. You can't do any of those things if you are not at war. So that was the action die spent for the Sauron player. Back we go now to the Free People's player. All right, the Free People's player has 2 dice left. They have a muster army die, and they have a Palantir event die. I think once again they're going to be using well, no. You know what they're going to do? They're going to do a muster as well. They're going to use this because this is a muster army. They're going to use the muster die, and we're going to go to the political track for them, and we're going to advance one of their factions on the political track. And I hope this is all making sense to you. It's a little bit complicated game, but not overly so. You basically you can do your actions based on your dice, and that's kind of how the meat and potatoes of the game works. So we can advance a passive nation or passive faction on the track. You just can't put them at war. So what we could do is we could take the Men of Gondor and put them down here. So if the shadow armies attack them anywhere on the board, now that they're at war themselves, it would turn them to the active state and push them 1 step down onto the track, which means the first time the shadow armies attack the Men of Gondor, if they're here passive, they would activate, they would be at war immediately. Not a bad idea. Or we can push the elves down 1 space, or we can push anyone else down. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take the Men of Rohan down 1 step. And like I said, you can move them down if they're passive. You just can't move them to at war. So we're going to advance Rohan down 1, getting them closer to prepare for war. Because if they get attacked as well, they're going to activate and flip over. Gets everyone, the Free People's nations, closer to war, so they can start mustering units, getting more units out on the board. So that's, I think, what we're going to do with the muster for the Free Peoples. All right, back we go now to the shadow player. All right, the shadow player still has 4 dice left, 2 character and 2 army. They are going to use, one of their army dice right now. I'll put the other ones away, which means, what can you do with an army die? Well, you can do several things. You can move armies. You can move up to 2 different armies from their regions to adjacent regions, which must be free for the purposes of army movement, and you can attack an enemy army. So once, or you can play an event card that has the army event symbol on it. Sauron is going to start moving his forces of evil. So he's going to move 2 armies on the board. So let's get to his movement. All right, the Easterlings down here in the south of the board are not at war, but they can move across their border. This is called, these are free spaces because you're not crossing either any other nation's border. If you're not at war, you can't do that. But they're just going into free spots here. So we're going to take 2 armies and move them. So we're going to move this army here. That's 1 army movement, 3 Easterling regulars, and we're going to take this army and move it here to join forces. So now we have in here 1 elite and 6 regular Southron Easterling units. Very close to Peligir, which is worth a victory point for evil. Now, because the Sauron, these units, the Southerlings or Easterlings, are not at war, they cannot cross this border, they cannot attack the Men of Gondor, but they can assemble here because this is a free space in here. All right, that was using the army die to move 2 different armies 1 space. And what you can't do is you can't move 1 army into a place that already has an existing army and then move that entire group again. You have to move each of 2 armies separately, and that's what we did. We moved 3 units from here and the 5 from here, or the 4 from here. All right, that's the muster die for Sauron. Back we go to the Free Peoples. And the Free Peoples Nation has only 1 die left. That's a Palantir, so we can either draw an event card from either the character deck or the strategy deck, or we can play 1 event card. And I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to play this card here, if we can read it, hopefully. And we're going to use it as Eomar, son of Eomund. Recruit 1 Rohan unit, regular or elite, and 1 Rohan leader in a free region containing Rohan region containing a settlement. Okay, so I'm going to have to get out the recruits. We are going to do one elite and one leader because the elites are more powerful. And we get to place it in a Rohan region. So, and also because we have Gandalf as the guide, we get to replace this card after we do this action because we played an event die. All right, let's go to the Rohan region, and we're going to put an elite and a leader on one of their settlements. All right, so we're going to recruit one elite Rohan unit and one leader, and we're going to recruit them in Helm's Deep. So settlements are either towns, cities, or strongholds. So Eomar shows up with his horse troops here at Helm's Deep. We can't recruit them here along the Fords of Isen because the Fords of Isen is a fortification, not a city. So Rohan is beefing up defense a little bit because we have Saruman here at Orthanc, the whole bunch of Uruk-hai, which just looks kind of dangerous. All right, so that card, of course, out of the game. We've used it. We've used all of the Free People's dice now, but we do get to draw one more card, and I think we're going to draw a strategy card because that was the strategy card that we just played. If you look at the back strategy card, and Gandalf's ability says if you use an event die to play a card, you get to draw a card of that type. So we're going to draw a new one, and we're going to take a look and see what we've got there now. Alright, so the card we drew is King Bran's Men. It's a muster die in the upper right, or any Palantir or event die could do it. So it says recruit 2 North regular units in Dale. Then draw 1 strategy event card. So this is pretty cool. So if we played this with a Palantir and Gandalf's still our leader, we could draw an event card for playing this card, and we could also draw another one because of Gandalf. Or it has Shield Wall. Before you remove casualties inflicted by your opponent's combat roll and leader reroll, if your opponent scored 2 or more hits, cancel 1 hit. So that's the card we've got now for our Free Peoples. So we have 2 cards now. All right, back to the Shadow player. They're the only ones with dice left. Let's see what they're going to do. All right, the Sauron player has 2 character dice and 1 army dice. They are once again going to use the army die to move 2 separate armies. So let's go back to the board and have them get some more of their troops on the move. This time we're headed into Mordor. And I should mention the black lines are impassable terrain for anybody except Nazguls and the Witch King because they are flying units. So 2 armies, 2 separate armies get to move. We are going to take this army and we're going to move it here. There's no black line here. It's 1 elite and 5 units from Minas Morgul. So the Sauron forces are heading out of Mordor and heading into the world, Middle-earth. And we will take this unit here from Nirn, there's 2 of them, and move them down here with these 5 units in Gorgoroth, I believe is what it is. Yeah, Gorgoroth. All right, so that was the 2 army movements. Back to the 2 more dice left for the Sauron player. And the Sauron player has 2 character dice left to play. Of course, the Free Peoples have no dice left. They won't be able to do anything else. So, we're going to be, obviously, they're going to be using 1 of their character dice right now. And for Shadow players only, they can move minions. They can move all Nazgul, including the Witch King, anywhere on the map, except into a region that contains a stronghold contained by the Free Peoples, unless a Shadow army is besieging it. Move other minions according to their level. So we are going to, or you can use the character die to move an army with a leader. So we can move 1 army with a leader to an adjacent region, which must be free for the purposes of army movement. So I think that's what we're going to do. Sauron's going to take one of his armies that has a leader with it, which will be a Nazgul, and move it to 1 adjacent location. Back to Mordor we go. All right, the build up in Mordor continues. So we can move one army that has a leader. This army's got a leader, and this army's got a leader. We're going to take this army here and move it right into Gorgoroth with the Nazgul. So it flies here and takes all of its troops with them. Now there are army limits in the game. You can only ever have 10 units. And leaders are not considered units for purposes of army size. So we can only have 10 in one region. So right now we've got 1 elite and 9 regulars, which is 10 the limit, and a leader, so that's valid. So we've moved out of Barad-dûr into Gorgoroth, and you can see the forces of Mordor are starting to sweep out of Mordor. There is also a passage here, you can't quite see it, to move out that way. The Sauron player has one more die, so let's go ahead and use it. And the final die for our Sauron player, which will be the end of our turn here, is the character symbol. So once again, we're going to move an army with a leader. I think that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm just going to make room here because we are going to move the same army again that we just now gathered. Just make sure I get everything in its place. We do have spaces on the other side of the board. If an army's too big to fit into a space, you can use a token to represent it. But I'm just going to try to keep everything kind of organized here. So this is our leader. Our Nazgul goes into Minas Morgul, taking with him every one of these 10 units. So we basically empty Gorgoroth, and we've got 10 units plus the Nazgul now at Minas Morgul. I wonder where they're headed. Maybe over to Minas Tirith, perhaps? And that is the end of playing all the action dice. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, and I think we're going to wrap up our episode for today. And so the very last phase is checking victory conditions. Well, is Frodo corrupted to 12 corruption? No, he's not. Does the Shadow player have 10 victory points taking over settlements? No, he doesn't. Does the Free People's player have 4 victory points taking over settlements? No, they don't. Has Frodo chucked the ring into the cracks of doom? No, he's not. So there's no victory. So when we come back in our next episode, we're going to start all over again with the first phase, which of course is recovering action dice, drawing event cards. And so the game continues like this until one of the victory conditions for either side is met. So far we've had the Fellowship move a little bit. They're out into the wilderness now somewhere. Sauron looking for them. Forces of Mordor on the march. Eomer has shown up in Rohan, supporting a little bit more the Rohirrim. Yeah, it's very fun game. I find it very interesting. So thanks so much for watching along. Thanks for your comments, subscriptions, likes. Really appreciate it. Join me next time for the continuation of War of the Ring, 2nd edition. Fantastic 2-player game. So I hope you'll join me. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.